All right, let's dive right in. We're living through a pretty strange and you could even say paradoxical moment in history. We've got this incredibly powerful new technology, AI, exploding onto the scene, right into a world that is just drowning in debt. And this is the central paradox, the real head scratcher we're facing. On one hand, our whole global financial system is built on this mountain of IOUs. It's all based on the promise that we'll have future income to pay back all this debt. But on the other hand, we're pouring billions and billions of dollars into AI, a technology whose entire purpose, its main selling point, is to get work done with fewer people. You see the conflict, right? It's a direct threat to the very income we need to keep the system afloat.
So, to really wrap our heads around this collision course, we first need to understand the engine that's been powering our economy for decades. Let's pop the hood, so to speak, and see how all the parts are supposed to work together.
It's really a cycle, a loop that keeps everything moving. It all starts with wages and salaries, the money that lands in our bank accounts. But when that's not quite enough to buy everything we want or need, credit steps in. That combined spending power becomes revenue for companies. And what do they do with that money? Well, they use it to pay wages, make profits, and pay taxes, which, of course, starts the whole cycle all over again. It's a really delicate, interconnected machine. Now, here's a really fascinating concept: prosthetic for demand. It's a great way to think about it. For decades now, for a lot of people, wages just haven't kept up. So how did we keep the economy growing? How did we keep spending? Debt. Credit has acted like an artificial limb, propping up our demand for goods and services. But here's the catch, and it's a big one. The whole thing relies on the promise, the assumption, that our future paychecks will be big enough to pay it all back. And that's the very promise that AI is now putting a giant question mark over. See, this isn't just another incremental tech upgrade. We need to be clear about why this wave of automation is a totally different kind of animal, a unique challenge to that wage and debt engine we just talked about. You know, in the past, when we thought about automation, we pictured robots on a factory floor, right? It was all about replacing manual, routine jobs. But modern AI is playing a completely different game. It's targeting cognitive and service work, the very thinking jobs that have been the foundation of the middle class for generations. It's not about replacing our muscles anymore. It's about replacing, or at least augmenting, our minds. And this is not some abstract, futuristic idea. We're talking about very real, very concrete white-collar jobs. I mean, just look at this list: software developers, paralegals, accountants, marketers, office admins. These are the careers that people went to university for, the jobs we all thought were the safe, stable path. AI is now becoming capable of performing crucial tasks in every single one of these fields. So what's the bottom line here, economically speaking? It's pretty straightforward. When a technology comes along that can do things cheaper than a human worker can, the money has to go somewhere. It tends to shift. Less of the pie goes to people in the form of wages, and more of it flows to the owners of the capital. In this case, the owners of the AI models, the owners of the vast data sets, and the owners of the computing power. Okay, so if you've got a massive pile of debt that depends on wages and a new technology that's putting a squeeze on those very wages, well, something's got to give. You can only stretch a rubber band so far before it snaps. This forces us to ask a really critical question. If the system can't hold, if some kind of reset is on the horizon, what could that actually look like? Well, when you boil it down, there seem to be three main pathways. The first is inflation. You could just let the value of money decrease, which quietly erodes the real value of old debts. That helps out borrowers but hurts savers. The second path is restructuring. This is more direct. We're talking about explicitly writing off debt, big debt forgiveness, or even defaults. And then you have the third and most radical option, a fundamental redesign of the whole system. If we actually go down that redesign path, two big ideas really dominate the conversation. You've got universal basic income, or UBI, on one side. The idea is simple: give everybody a check every month and trust them to spend it how they see fit. On the other side, you have universal basic services, or UBS. That's a different approach. Instead of cash, the idea is to guarantee access to the essentials: healthcare, education, housing, as a public right. So one is about individual choice through cash, the other is about collective security through services. Two really different answers to the same problem. But what if we don't choose any of those? What if, instead of a managed reset, we just do nothing? What if we just try to muddle through? Well, there is another possibility, another scenario. And frankly, It's a much darker one.
In this non-reset future, we basically try to force the old system to keep working, even as it's breaking apart. All those amazing productivity gains from AI, they just get funneled to a tiny elite at the very top. For everyone else, debt becomes an even heavier burden. And here's the really chilling part. AI gets repurposed. It's not just for efficiency anymore. It's used for surveillance and social control to manage the growing discontent. The end result is a society that drifts away from what we'd call capitalism towards something that looks a lot more like a high-tech feudalism.
So, how are we supposed to think about all this? It can feel overwhelming, but I think the key is to stop seeing it as a story of good guys versus bad guys. This isn't about good intentions or evil plots. It's about the fundamental rules of the economic game itself. I mean, think about it. If you're a CEO and you choose not to use AI to save jobs, you're probably going to get crushed by a competitor who does. If you're an investor, you're going to put your money into the companies that are using this technology to get an edge. The push to automate isn't really driven by individual greed. It's baked into the system. The incentives are set up to make automation the most rational, logical choice for everyone playing the game. And this all leads to what I think is the single best metaphor for our entire situation. Think of AI as a massive hardware upgrade for human civilization. We're installing a brand new, unimaginably powerful processor. The problem is we're trying to run it on an ancient operating system, our laws, our financial rules, our social contract. The real challenge is whether we can update our societal software to match this new hardware before the whole thing crashes. And so at the end of the day, we're left with one massive question. Are we going to be proactive and consciously choose to rewrite the rules of the game, to steer this incredible technology towards a future that benefits everyone? Or are we just going to let the old rules stand and watch as this new hardware simply renders them and the society they support completely obsolete? Really, the choice is up to us.